I'm excited to tell you about Paramium Technologies satellite communication solutions. You've probably heard that in the California gold rush, the people who made the most money were not the miners. The real winners were the people selling the shovels. So right now, there's an explosion of growth in AI, big data, cloud computing, ubiquitous 5G, IoT. We've heard about some of these today. And all of these industries are growing exponentially. And all of these industries depend on satellite communication. So Paramium is selling the shovels for the satellite rush. Just to review, the way satellite communication works is we start with big data in a ground station on the ground, and then we use what's called a ground station, which is a large parabolic dish antenna, to beam the data up to a satellite in orbit. And that satellite then relays the data down to individual access points. That might be your house, a cargo ship in the Pacific, a trucker in Kansas, the movie you watched on your last flight. All of that data funnels through the ground station. And recently, satellite launch costs have dropped drastically. So small and mid-sized businesses are launching satellites all the time, but none of them are building more ground stations. So this has caused a severe bottleneck at the ground station. Paramium is building a global ground station network that we will rent out as a service. Let me give you some numbers to show you how painful this bottleneck problem is. Today, there are over 8,000 satellites that are active in orbit. And the largest player in the ground station market only has 12 ground stations to talk with them. And this problem is only getting worse. This year, we'll launch 2,800 more satellites. Maybe I should say this problem is just getting better for Paramium. We've received over $2.5 million of non-dilutive funding from the National Science Foundation, and we've used that technology to develop antenna communication technologies that allow a higher data throughput than anyone has ever done in the past. And we will implement that patent-protected technology in our global network. We have 6 employees and counting, and 2 labs and 3 ground station antennas. One of them is in this picture. We have a detailed go-to-market strategy where we map out building our infrastructure and acquiring our customers. The way our business will work is small and mid-sized companies will log onto our website and they'll use our streamlined scheduling app to book time on our ground stations. And then our API will automatically download their data to their servers or to the cloud. It'll be as easy as scheduling a meeting on Zoom. There are competitors in this space who rent out their ground stations as a service, but they target large corporations and governments, and they require that their customers have an in-house team of satellite communication experts. And it takes 6 months just to establish the connection before they can start running data up and down. Our process will be streamlined so that any size company can have immediate access to their data. And like I said, as easy as scheduling a meeting on Zoom. This market is huge, $115 billion. The satellite as a service segment is $45 billion. We're confident that we can attain $2 billion annual revenue in the near future. The numbers I just showed were based on known applications and current use cases. And it is likely that Starlink and other current companies will be our customers. But new satellite applications are emerging every day. If you think about Earth imaging, home security systems, fleet management, agriculture, edge computing, asset tracking, all of these technologies will be using satellite technology in the next 2 years. And all of these industries will need Paramium's ground station network. Our leadership team is strong. Christian Davila and I have deep technical expertise in satellite communication, and we have also each launched multiple successful companies. And we've hired Ken Geyer, a former area executive from Raytheon, and he is accelerating our business success.
Justin, thanks so much. I think you did a really nice job explaining the business in layman's terms. I was hoping you can get a little bit more into what's the timing to get to revenue, and what does your revenue model look like?
Sure. So our revenue model, there is upfront capital. We're building infrastructure. And then we rent out our system as a service per minute. So we'll be charging per minute to our customers. Our antennas have an individual ROI of 2 years. And so we'll be paying off our original investment in that time.
And just when will you get to revenue? What's
Oh,
the
I
time
see.
for that?
Yeah, so we're building our first 10 antennas in 2026, and we'll be able to deploy those immediately. We have 3 right now that we're doing demonstrations with, but our significant revenue will come with those first 10.
Thank you.
You kind of position the market as if you build it, they will come. Like there's room for multiple players. Is there a competitive advantage to your technology, and how are you building a moat compared to folks that already have these networks in place?
Sure. So there are 2 advantages that we have. Existing providers of ground stations are using legacy antennas from the 80s, 90s. Some of them are refurbished. They're all mismatched. It's difficult to use. So our brand new uniform antennas that are built for the future technologies will address that issue. Our other advantage is our patent-protected technology, which enables us to use higher frequencies, which means higher data throughput. So we can bring data down faster than they can, and that is patent-protected.
Thanks. What does your average contract size look like? What will it look like eventually, and what kind of partnerships are you looking to do?
Sure. So we're wanting to make this very accessible and flexible. So we're charging by the minute. So contracts might be 10 minutes a day. It might be buying in 10 entire antennas worth of data of constant usage. So we can address any size.
Yeah, impressive, Justin. It had mentioned in the materials that you're considering a joint venture as part of your go-to-market strategy with an integrator. Talk about that decision. What does that do for you? Why does that accelerate your path?
That accelerates our path because we are not going to personally be building these antennas. We've been in the manufacturing space since 2019, and we have made partnerships and relationships with the companies that design the RF, the electronics, the mechanics, and we are building that team to deploy these. So they have been making these things, they have the technology, and we have been building the team to do that.
Thank you.
Justin, how do you decide where to build the ground stations? And I imagine it's some sort of function of expected utilization. So could you also maybe talk about what the payback, like expected payback is as you launch these first 10 sites?
Sure. So there are 2 factors that sort of, it's a trade space. If you build a bunch of antennas in the same place, your marginal cost is lower because you can share infrastructure. On the other hand, you want to have coverage. Our first priority is coverage. So we're going to build 10 in the United States and then the next 50 globally. So we'll attack the coverage first. And so it's based on just angle, visibility, line of sight to the satellites. And then our second phase will be to add additional antennas at those existing sites to leverage the lower marginal cost and get higher throughputs.
Do you have sort of a way of analyzing or expecting payback for each site, like how long it takes before you cover sort of your upfront costs?
Yes, absolutely. We will be able to track and we will be tracking our usage, and we are going to integrate AI into our system so that we'll have seamless handoffs and optimizing which antennas are talking with which satellites. The satellite landscape right now is kind of how cell phones were in the 90s. You drive across town and you keep dropping the call. That's how it is right now. We'll have seamless cellular handoffs with optimized handoffs.
What's the estimated cost of these ground centers?
So ground stations cost about $300,000 for the antenna, and then utilities depend a little bit on the location, but about $500,000 for the ground station.
Do you ever think we will look up at the night sky and no longer see stars, but only satellites?
That may be, and if everyone sees the Starlink satellites going up, you know about the Starlink antenna on your RV, but nobody talks about the ground station. So
let's give Justin a hand. Excellent.